Hey guys. All right. So, who can tell me where we are in the story? Because, hey, guess what? Mrs. Merriman left the book in her lunch bag and didn't bring the right one again today. Emma.
Where they were escaping jail, I think.
They were escaping from jail. Who remembers the name of the territory where they were in jail? Bella, guys, Tristan, mask up. Do you remember what territory they were in where they were in jail? They were two types of people.
Oh.
Gianni?
Alex and Connor.
Alex and Connor were caught and they were taken to the troll and what?
Goblin.
Goblins. There you go. The troll and goblin territory. Who ended up helping them escape? It was an important man that they had read about earlier in the journal. Who helped them? Emma?
The troll princess.
Well, absolutely, yes. Her name was Trollbella. The troll princess decided to help them out. Why did she decide to help them out?
Oh, I got one.
Gianni?
Because Troll Bella thought the boy was cute. That's why.
That's exactly right. She thought Connor was cute. Do you remember the nickname that she gave him?
Butter
She said,
boy.
Yes, can I call you my butter boy? All right. Now, when they got to the middle section of the tunnels where all of the trolls and goblins were, what were they doing as Alex and Connor were escaping? Cedric?
Blocking.
They weren't really, they were blocking it, but not really on purpose. Bella?
They were sleeping.
They were sleeping. And because there were so many of them and they were sleeping all over the floor, it was blocking the way. Okay, so when Trollbella brought the key to help Alex and Connor escape, what did they do with it?
Unlocked all the cages.
They unlocked all of the cages where all of the prisoners that had been forced to be slaves were staying. They unlocked all of the doors and they're letting everybody out and they're headed to the tunnels so everyone can escape. Okay, Tristan, if you're not going to get your mask up, you may go back to your seat. Water doesn't need to be down here, girls. If you need to be drinking, you need to do that at your seats, please. All right, so they were almost at the stone tunnel. Alex stopped in the middle of the room to make sure that everyone had passed safely and that no one was left behind. Eventually, everyone had made it except her brother, who remained very still in the back of the room. He was staring at the Troll King and the Goblin King with wide eyes and an open mouth. He was just frozen. Connor, what are you doing? Alex asked with whispers. Look at the crown. It's the crown, he whispered back. Alex looked up at the stone crown above the Troll King and the Goblin King's heads. What about it? Alex whispered back. It's the crown for the wishing spell, Connor said. A stony crown that's made to share, found deep within a savage lair. Alex could feel her heart beating in her throat. Connor was right. It fit the description perfectly. What are you two doing? We're waiting for you, the tradesman said from the stone tunnel. Alex and Connor looked at each other. They knew that they couldn't leave without the crown. Go ahead without us, Alex said. Suit yourself, the tradesman said, and then left with the others down the stone tunnel. I'm going to get it, Connor whispered to Alex. Be careful, Alex replied. Connor slowly moved through the room. he accidentally kicked a goblet and it made a loud ding, causing a few of the trolls and goblins to twitch in their sleep. "Sorry," Connor mouthed. He climbed up onto the throne platform. The crown was pretty high up, and he would have to climb up onto the thrones to get it. He climbed onto the armrest of the Troll King's throne. His left leg was so close to the king's face that Connor could feel the king's warm breath through his jeans. Connor swung his right leg onto the armrest of the Goblin King's throne and reached up for the crown. It was still too high. He'd have to jump for it. Alex had to cover her eyes. Her hands were trembling. Connor jumped and tried to grab the crown, but he was just a few inches too short. He jumped again. The tips of his fingers touched it this time. He jumped once more. This time, the highest jump yet, and grabbed it. Unfortunately, on his way down, he missed the armrests and landed right in the lap of the Goblin King. "Ah!" The Goblin King screamed. Alex took her hands from her face just in time to see her terrified brother sprawled across the Goblin King's lap, with the crown held tightly in his hand. Connor jumped up and ran as fast as he could, grabbing his sister's arm on the way toward the exit. "After them!" the Goblin King ordered. "Someone grab them!" The entire room of trolls and goblins began waking up to the Goblin King's yells. Alex and Connor weren't careful about what or who they stepped on now. They ran straight through the common room, down the tunnel of stones. Dozens of trolls and goblins chased after them. The twins ran past the two horrible statues at the tunnel's entrance. The goblin statue suddenly crashed onto the ground just as they passed it, blocking the tunnel. Alex screamed. If they had been a second later, it would have fallen on them. They turned to see the tradesman, out of breath and holding his heart. He had just knocked over the statue and blocked the tunnel. The trolls and goblins had reached the end of the tunnel and were struggling to get past the fallen statue. "That should keep them busy for a while," the tradesman said. "Now run!" "Where's everyone else?" Alex asked. "They fled to the tunnels. They're safe," he said. "What about you?" Alex asked. "I couldn't leave without you," the tradesman said. "I'm old, children. I'd never outrun them anyway, but you two still have a lot of living to do. So run before they get past the statue. Hurry." "We're not leaving without you," Alex said. "I'm wanted in every kingdom," the tradesman said between deep breaths. "No matter where I go, I'll end up behind bars. I've done a lot of bad things in my day, children. I've made a lot of trades and deals that I shouldn't have. I deserve this. You don't. Now run!" Alice and Connor's feet moved before their minds could decide whether to stay any longer. They ran ahead and found a series of tunnels leading in different directions. Each had a sign above the entrance that said where the tunnel led to. "Come on," Alex said, and grabbed Connor's arm, pulling him into the tunnel that said Fairy Kingdom above it. They tucked the troll and goblin crowns safely away in Alex's bag. "Did we do the right thing?" Alex asked Connor as they ran down the tunnel. "Should we have left him?" "He wasn't going to come with us. His mind was made up," Connor said. He knew that they had done everything that they could, but he still felt guilty too. "How could a stranger give up so much for us?" Alex said. Maybe he thought trading his freedom for ours would be the only honest trade that he'd ever make. Let's see what time we're looking at. We got maybe 2 pages more. All right, we're going to begin chapter 12, the Fairy Kingdom. Alex and Connor emerged from the underground between a tree and a big rock. They were covered in dirt and cobwebs and were breathing hard and sweating profusely. It had been so stuffy in the tunnel. "We made it," Alex said. "We're at the surface." "I never thought I'd be so happy to see the sun in the sky," Connor said. It was sometime around noon, and the twins had found themselves in a pleasant grassy field next to a perfectly groomed path. "Is that the path that we should have taken after the Red Riding Hood Kingdom?" Connor asked. "Yep," Alex said, looking down at her map, but thinking of all the fun we would have missed out on if she said. They shared a laugh. The twins brushed themselves off and headed down the path. They felt very safe in this place. All of the trees and fields were perfectly manicured and inviting. Then again, anything would have seemed inviting after narrowly escaping a lifetime of slavery with trolls and goblins. "Are we positive that we're in the fairy kingdom?" Connor said, looking around. "I'd say it's very possible," Alex said, but she wasn't looking down at the map. "Well, that's an indication," Alex said and pointed. Grazing around a perfect little stream ahead of them, to their amazement, was a herd of unicorns. They were beautiful, white with silver horns, silver hooves, and silver manes. Connor's forehead wrinkled and his mouth dropped open. "Oh, geez," he said. "That is the most obnoxious thing I have ever seen in my entire life." "I want to pet one," Alex said and ran toward them. "Alex, be careful," Connor said. "They could have rabies." "Unicorns don't have rabies, Connor," Alex said. "You don't know where those horns have been," Connor called out. Alex walked up to the herd, slowing her pace so that she wouldn't spook them. They were so majestic and graceful. They just had to stop and admire them for a moment. One saw her and walked toward her. Any sane person would have been scared by a wild animal approaching them, but Alex wasn't at all. For whatever reason, she knew that the unicorn wasn't going to harm her. It lowered its head and she petted its face. Connor walked up and stood just behind her. All the other unicorns slowly surrounded them both. "Alex," Connor said, "this is making me incredibly nervous." The unicorns formed a perfect circle around the twins and bowed to them. Alex smiled from ear to ear and Connor raised a suspicious eyebrow. "Maybe they're welcoming us to their kingdom," Alex said. The unicorns stood still as if frozen and didn't show any sign of moving. Connor grabbed Alex's hand and they left the circle and rejoined the path. The stream traveled beside the path as the twins traveled down it. "Is it just me, or is that water sparkling?" Connor asked. He was right. The farther they walked along the stream, the more it appeared to glow and shimmer. "That must mean we're getting close," Alex said happily. There. That's Thumbelina Stream. It should take us straight into the fairy kingdom." "I say we grab a hold of the first fairy we find and call her mean names like, 'You oversized insect,' or 'fish bait,' until she cries," Connor said. "That's how we're going to get a tear from a fairy." "No, we should come up with a really sad story to tell," Alex said, and the thought occurred to her. "How are we going to collect the tears once they've been shed?" Connor shrugged. "Maybe we'll have to kidnap a fairy and keep her around until we need her to cry." "What does the journal say to do?" Alex opened the journal and found the section about the fairy kingdom. "Acquiring a fairy tear is not an easy task." "Surprise, surprise," Connor said. Since fairies are, for the most part, very happy beings, it will be hard to find one so overcome with grief that it is brought to tears. However you manage, hopefully under moral conditions, you can use the vial hidden inside this journal's spine to contain the tear. Alex turned the book on its side and looked closely through a hole where the pages were connected to the spine, and deep inside the journal's spine was a small glass vial with a cork stopper on the top. "Look at this," Alex said, pulling the vial out of the spine. "It says to put the tear in this vial." All right, we're going to stop there. We're stopping on page 264. Now, there's an important part that we just read about. How did the unicorns react when they met Alex and Connor for the first time? Gianni?
They bowed.
They bowed.
Like,
I'm just going to bring that to everyone's attention because later on, that's going to be a clue. Dum dum dum. All right, have a great afternoon, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.